Hi, this is Theresa and Sarah from Strega Apothecary, and we wanted to talk to you today about a new divination system that we were gifted called the Inner Journey Board.
Yeah, so with this being a technology that came through using the Dagra stick divination technology that we both have been initiated into, I thought maybe we could have a discussion. How does a new technology get developed?
Good question. Through multiple divinations, I would answer.
Yeah, so when was the first time that they asked us to sit down and listen for this?
It was early on after I was initiated that they showed this to me. This board, we call this the Inner Journey Board.
And I'm
They
going to try to tip it up here.
They showed this to me, and so I saw it, and they said, we want you to create this new divination system to help the earth, to go out into the earth and heal places with it. And so it's also applicable to humans, because once we got into the divinations, they began to show us how to use it for humans as well. But they really do always want to emphasize that it's technology to use for the earth and healing places. So once I got that assignment, I think I asked Sarah if she wanted to come and do some divinations, just listening in for what this technology was and how it was going to work. And then,
yeah, I remember the very first one that we did, because this was at least two houses ago. So I remember where we were sitting. For me to remember that is kind of unique. And so they were talking about us traveling around the Bay Area, the full Bay Area, to create star waters. They were talking about how trees, allies that we already had, but they wanted us to go meet trees, and they said that the trees are in connection to the stars, and that by greeting the trees, and we brought waters to each of these places, and that we were activating star waters. And then they started talking about the 9 dimensions. And when we talk about the 9 dimensions, we, in our group, are referring back to Barbara Handclough and the Alchemy of 9 Dimensions. And so it's an understanding of the different dimensions that we can access, I guess, as humans. And then they ended up mapping them across this, basically across, so that it lines up with the 7 chakras. And so then we started to see that it really matched the human body. And so if you want to learn more, you can follow the YouTube site, and you can tune in to learn more about the Inner Journey Board.
yeah, we'll see you there.
And so we'll just go ahead and continue our conversation.
Yes.
So what else did we learn as we were doing this?
Oh my goodness. Wow. I don't know how many. I think it might have been a divination for each bowl.
Yeah.
So it might have been even up to 9 divinations, and then a separate divination, learning how to use it, how to do divination with it. So what did we learn? Well, we actually did go to each of these places, and so we learned about the places, and each dimension, they lined up with a chakra, and they taught us about what it would mean if the stick picked a certain one of these bowls for someone who came to divination or for the land. So, for example, let's just start with the easy one. The first dimension, first chakra, is the root chakra, right? So that they showed how that would line up with the center of the earth, or the underground of a place, or the deep rootedness of a place. And then they taught us all about that, like the indications of if it needed help or if it needed activating, and why, and who the local entity was. So we learned, I don't know, we just learned, I felt like I learned so much about the chakra system, and simultaneously more about the 9 dimensions with the way that they were kind of weaving those together.
Yeah, and then what I was noticing, just kind of going back through the notes, because we had to make our own manual so that we could keep track of all of this, it was also then weaving in all of the information from the Dogra tradition. And so, like with this first chakra, first dimension, they were talking about the Tingan tree, which is the main earth shrine, and it basically holds the umbrella of the local place. And so for us, it is here in Sebastopol, California, where we're working. And it was really showing how our earth shrine tree is rooted deep into the below, and then showing, so the roots down below mirroring the tree branches, and the whole above, as above, so below, and accessing kind of the networking, just realizing that we're not doing this whole life project as a solo individual being, that we have so much support, and we really learned about that. And we were at one spot on Mount Burdell, and we had a tree ally there pointing us across the bay to Mount Diablo,
Right.
and telling us the whole story about the first people going there to find the waterfalls. And then, so we went and discovered that there really were 7 waterfalls, and started doing work there. And I know that at that point, they were really talking about, we were in the 4th dimension at that point, and they were really looking at fear. So according to Barbara Handclough, the 4th dimension has to do with the realm of the collective consciousness, and that's where the gods and the goddesses, but also like our religious backgrounds, family structures, and then the news. And that was a big piece, because they were talking about fear, and then Fox came in as an ally, being able to sniff out fear. And so we just learned so many things, and then they created this system for us.
Correct. So the 4th, if the 4th chakra, well, it's the 4th dimension, but it's all the 5th chakra, correct? That's how it ended up being. The 7 corresponding to the 9.
The 4th, 5th, and 6th are in the 4th chakra.
Okay,
of the
4th,
heart.
5th, sorry. They taught us a lot about fear that day, and it was interesting because we were on this really steep hill. Remember, the tree we needed to visit was on this very steep hill, and I had developed a fear of heights, so I was really getting comfortable with fear that day. So each of these bowls also has an animal associated with it as well, and a star, and some of them also have flower essences associated with them. So we also have this, I put mine in a bag like this, but we did indeed create the waters for each of these, and then some of them will get a flower essence for the healing, and a crystal put in them while we're carrying out the healing.
Yeah, so when a client comes to sit with us, we are doing our invocation, which is how we generally start a divination, and then we use our stick from Stick Divination, and it starts to move across the board, and then it kind of taps on, and it'll point out which dimensional healing is needed for the land or for the person. And then we put in the star water if it requires the flower essence. We put that all in, and then we do the sound, and it either gets applied to the body, or if it's for the land, we give it to them in a little glass jar, and it goes home with them, and they'll make that offering to the land. But then from there, then we get into the broader part that's more, I guess, specific, where we use a 9-shell system of divining. So then we roll out the 9 shells, and the interesting thing about working with the 9 shells is that it really maps. I find that almost every
9
time.
shells.
Yeah, that it lays out like a grid, and then it starts to point out, and you look at the layout. Is this the mountain, or is this someone's home? Is this the garage in the back? And then we just really get into any specific rituals that might want to be added on to the healing, or expanding on the understanding of what wants to happen.
Right. So when the initial diagnosis, I suppose we would call it, is made by the stick, after we've invoked and listened to what kind of questions the person has brought, we do the divination, and then the stick identifies which one is needing attention. And there are already rituals included with each diagnosis, and then we go on to do like like we were just saying, it's a 9-shell divination. So and that is, as Sarah said, a deeper inquiry into the subject at hand, and the client gets to really collaborate at that point, right? And ask questions and ask more questions and get clarity. So that becomes more of an interactive process with the client.
Yeah, so I guess just before we finish, maybe if we have any, stories or things that have come up from working with this. Sometimes I have clients that check in and they say, this is kind of what I'm up against, or this is what I am wanting to get out of divination, and which technology, which system do you think we should use? And so sometimes I'll refer back. We use a binary system with 2 shells just to kind of get clear answers. And so sometimes I ask the Wedome and the Contomble, who are the elemental beings that we work with, what they recommend. But yeah, this is really if somebody is managing like an illness in the body or something, an energy that feels specifically stuck. And then also if their land feels like it has a problem. Like I've done something for somebody like where they thought that there was a ghost, kind of a spirit stuck on the land. Have you used it in any?
I've been called. Well, I've actually taught a class for over a year, where I was told to do one of these divinations for each class, because the class was out on the land. So every place that we went to, we had to do one of these divinations, just asking about the land we were working on and sitting on, what was up and what kind of healing might be needed. So I have done a lot of those just outdoors, mountains, rivers, just really inquiring about what that place needs. And I think that's my favorite way to use this, just from a personal point of view.
Yeah. Okay, well, thanks for sitting with us and learning more about the Inner Journey Board. You can find more information about us at stregatree.com. And
Thank you.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, this is a hot spot.
I'm starting to sweat. I'm like, okay, we need to stop because I'm starting to drip. And my makeup is running.